Hey there, my name's David. On this episode, I'm going to show you my advanced automatic watering system for my garden. So I've tried everything when it comes to automatic watering systems. I've tried drip irrigation, soaker hoses, I don't know, there's all sorts of different things, the sprinkler heads, overheads, the choppy ones, and some kind of weird DIY stuff. And they all have a different purpose, but let me show you. I'm using 3 different types for 3 different applications, which should give you a perfect example of how to use automatic watering in your garden. And especially if you're starting a garden from scratch, you can set it up really easily, which I'll show you. Okay, when it comes to automatic watering, you need to get one of these things. It can be any brand. This brand is really good though. I've had one break and they sent me a brand new one, no questions asked. I didn't have the receipt. So this is an automatic waterer. It looks like 3 stations, but it's actually 2. So this is a bypass. You can pull this lever, which allows you to use the hose and just manually water, and it has 2 stations, 1 and 2. They have a clock, a timer. It's, lets you set your clock, your timer, like every 12 hours, every 3 hours, how many times you want to water, and how often. You can do like every 12 hours, or you can do once a day or whatever. And you can even set a delay for it to not water for 3 or 4 days if it's raining. So you need one of those. I actually have 3 of them. So I use 6 different zones, and you can actually use a splitter off of your hoses, which will, something like this. And this will allow you to add more hoses onto it, but it does decrease the water pressure. So this only works if you're really watering something that's level or flat or going downhill. If you have to pump the water uphill, you'll significantly lose pressure. So something to think about. So in the first example here, I have soaker hoses. So this soaker hose goes along my garden, and you can see the full shot here. It goes all the way down these beds. And you can see I just have it, it just dangles over and just weaves its way. Now, a mistake I made here is I forgot to plant these in straight lines. If you plant it in a straight line, you can run your soaker hose in a straight line instead of the zigzag that I have. It makes it a whole lot easier. Now, something I do here is for these gaps, if you're building a garden from scratch, don't put gaps in here, just make it one long thing and your problem will be solved. But for me, I put these in here so I can walk around it. So I have these are like things from roofing stuff, and it just catches the water and just drops it back over here. So I'm not watering grass in the middle, which is, pointless. And I have another one over here, etc. So I'm still missing one that I have to find, which is over here, but that's the automatic watering for the soaker hose. Now I'll show you the next system I have. So you can see my second device is under here, and I should cover this with a bucket. I just got this set up today. So you want to cover these so they don't get soaked when it does rain. But I've got another automatic hose here. Just as the same as the last one. I'll just quickly show you this. This one goes through all these are just raspberry. I got a porcelain berry. I've got some really unique whatever berries, gooseberries, and ground trilling raspberries, some mint, fuchsia, etc. And I just run it along there and all the way back. The good thing about these soaker hoses is you can lay them on top, and that's how they're designed to be used. The other type, which I'll show you, is a rubber soaker hose, which is meant to be buried in the ground and never pulled up. So let me show you that. So it's this one here. These soaker hoses should be buried in the soil. I stopped using them because they're garbage. They break, and despite burying them, they still crack, and they're not reliable. So this is the only piece I have left. I just have one piece just to, water this one tree and this one white blackberry. But I don't recommend those. And I will say that these soaker hoses, they will like split on the seams and eventually start spraying. So they only lasted 2 seasons for me. So jury's still out on what's the best quality, but I do like the fabric soaker hoses better than anything else. Okay, for the next one, I have all my fruit trees. And what I used to do is put those soaker hoses between the grass, but then I'd have this in between all the fruit trees. But then I'd have all this grass between the fruit trees that would just be lush. And I'd have to keep weed whacking it. But that's where the soaker hose is, because I didn't want to weed whack and hack up the soaker hose. So then I ended up putting garbage bags down like this. So I've got these garbage bags, and I would tie them on the soaker hose so the plastic would hold the water and it would direct it to one plant or the other, depending on which way gravity was taking it. And it worked okay, but then you got plastic bags laying on your yard and it looks kind of junky, and you just end up with a lot of water that pools in the middle and doesn't actually go to one of the plants. So I developed a new strategy from some old hoses. So I've got 2 or 3 holes, yeah, probably 3 hoses that have holes in them, and they just start spurting water. And I've tried using the sealant and tape and all sorts of stuff, and never fixes it. So I had a better idea for watering my fruit trees this year, and that's what I'm going to show you. So what I've done is I laid them out. So I put the holes that I currently have lined up with a plant, and then I started adding more holes with a pin, like a big needle and a hammer at my other plants. So that didn't work. The needle holes were too small. So I ended up using a tiny drill bit, and I drilled holes and everything, and then use a valve to regulate how much water pressure is going through. So it acts like a drip irrigation, but it's using a big hose. Now the problem with drip irrigation is often you get these connectors and they'll blow off when there's too much pressure. And I just find that it'd be really obnoxious because eventually one of them would break, or you have ones that kind of spin and shoot out water and they get clogged, and then you end up with too much pressure on the other side, and it was just a real pain. So I find this system is excellent. So let me show you. So you can see here, this is my valve regulator, and so I've got it like 3/4 closed. So now when I turn this on, so I can manually turn this on just by pushing this button and changing it to zone 2 on my thing, and then this will click on because it's got a battery in it. Clickety click. So now the water's going through here. And now I've got a hole drilled at my apple tree. Okay, so you can see the water spurting out here. Now let's go to the next one. This one's easy to see. You can see this one spurting out, so this is watering this one. You see this one here. So you can see the water here spraying on my pawpaw. This is my honeyberry getting watered here. So I'm quite happy with this system. It makes a lot of sense. It waters it, and I know these hoses won't crack and break. I just have to take them in at the end of the year, but I'm gonna put some duct tape or something near each hole so I know where each hole is. That way when I lay it out next year, it'll be really easy. So now let me show you my other system on the other side. Okay, so for this side, I have moved 2 of my boxes, you can see, so they're right close, because I was dealing with the same problem where I was having gaps. I actually filled in this one here, so now that's full, and same with the one down there, but not so much on the other side. So I still have a few gaps. I should have just made it one huge box. It would have been so much easier. So what I initially did is I had soaker hoses that went back and forth, but then the pressure would lose, like it would go down as it went further down. And so the stuff at the top would get way more water than the stuff at the bottom. So I've switched this over just to a simple sprinkler. So this one will just go up and spray it. So this is the least efficient way to water your garden, is with one of these, because the wind will blow the water around. But I tried the soaker hoses and a lot of them are cracked. I'd have to either buy a bunch of new ones or just go with the sprinkler. And since it is basically a big box, I will have to do a bit more weeding with this, but this was definitely the best way to go for the current system I have. You can see it goes all the way down here. Right now it's missing, see right now it's windy, so it's missing the bottom box, and it's overwatering back there. So, you know, it's not perfect, but I just set it to water my garden when it's least windy, like later at night. And it usually does a pretty good job. The overspray bit catches my trees down here, like the ginkgo and my peach tree. So overall, this will work out for me, and it is better than the soaker hoses. So now down here, I'm using fabric soaker hose and into this big box and just letting it soak through the whole thing, as you can see here. And what I'm doing over here is I have the soaker hose starting for the second zone, and then this waters all my bushes, and then this other box. So I do, see, this is a problem here, is I have these few spots where it's going to overwater grass in between, but I only have a few bushes to deal with, so I'll have to do an extra bit of weeding and stuff there, so it's not too bad. Realistically, if I had another broken hose, I could just do the same thing here and just put holes in all of it for all of these, and you know, it'd be good to go, except I do need to water this box, which is why I did it this way. And I will show you here, see, when these soaker hoses break, they start spraying water like this. So I actually lined this up to water everything here strategically with the broken section of the hose, because this area needs the most water anyways. All this stuff is pretty old, so it doesn't need that much water, but you can see it's getting watered nicely throughout with all these soaker hoses in here. And what ends up happening is the water goes down, and then once it saturates right underneath it, it will spread out. So you just, you get like a good, 6 or 8 inches on either side that will end up getting wet. So lastly, I'll talk about this kind of sprinkler, the sprinkler system versus like the overhead one that I have over there. These ones are good because they shoot like a nice straight line, and then and so you can kind of set up like a wedge shape. So I mean, they're not bad, but they are quite powerful. You can regulate them by putting in like a valve there and then dial it down and all that kind of stuff. But I find that the overhead one works okay as long as you have a big box that you're watering like I'm doing. This one is a little bit harder to control, and it's a little heavier because you get big spurts of water. If you have young plants, it'll kind of smash them. So if your plants are older, you can use these. So for that reason, I put a whole bunch of seeds in the ground. Like I don't want to just demolish all my seeds with like heavy water spurts, which is why I don't use this. But I did use this the very first year, and it works okay. It's just, if you can, the fabric soaker hoses with perfect straight lines, like your beds being nice and long straight lines, it would be the absolute best. And then just have splitters at the top, so you have all your lines going from the same spot, and like that would be the easiest way to auto water your garden. In terms of like splitting off your water and stuff, I go to the dollar store, you can buy these. They work. They've lasted, actually, hadn't had one of these crack. And then on the end here, you can see this is just a single valve. So this allows you to change how much water. You can open and close the valve, but if you half close it, then it changes how much pressure. So I find these to be really useful too. You can also buy them in metal or brass like this. These are much better quality. Like these won't break. So I have multiple different ones. I really haven't had problems with any of them. I haven't had the plastic ones break, so you can save some money. These are like, $8-10 each, where those other ones are only $2 each. And so here's the drip irrigation. I'm done with this. I won't use drip irrigation again. It's just too much of a pain in the butt. You can see like these ends, you have to cut them, and it takes forever. The idea is you put them in, you never take them out, but I've had too many of these ends pop off, and then you have to go find where the water's, shooting out. And if you're away for a week and it pops off, well then like half your garden's not gonna get watered. And so like this comes out the end here and spins and shoots water, but then maybe this end pops off. Like it's just too much of a hassle. So I got rid of all of mine. I'm not a fan of the drip irrigation, unless I'm doing how I'm doing it with the drilling holes in an actual hose, because I know the hose can't pop apart. So if we enjoyed this look into my automatic watering system for my garden, I've spent a lot of time over the last 3 years perfecting this, and really the best solution is if I could find a fabric soaker hose that doesn't crack or split, and then plant in straight lines, that would be the ultimate. But hope you found this video helpful. Be sure to subscribe. Until next episode, have a great day.